I wrote the road test on the McLaren F1 back in whenever it was, in '94. That was quite a big campaign because we were the only magazine doing proper road tests at the time. Autocar would certainly argue that remains the case. I don't know anybody else who goes to anything like that level of rigour to get objective data on cars in the world of motoring journalism in the UK, certainly. And so our pitch to McLaren was not, can we do this? It was, we have to do this. We are the only people who can do this. You need a set of objective numbers, and who else are you going to go to? And because Gordon gets it, that's what happened.
So that 0 to 60, 0 to 62 time?
0 to 60, 3.2 seconds.
That's your time.
Yeah.
I could see. I've known of that 3.2 second figure for. No, it last year. It's 25 years since you did it, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly.
It was 1994.
I'll tell you exactly what it was. I'll tell you the day. It was May the 2nd, 1994, and I know that only because it was the day after Senna got killed.
Yes. Yeah. There we go. So, I've known of that 3.2 second figure for 20 odd years, 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And that's your time.
0 to 106.3, 0 to 228. All I would say is we had to patch it slightly, only because you can't do, Millbrook is where you normally go to do those sorts of numbers. But you can't do 200 miles an hour at Millbrook. And we needed a 0 to 200 time. And so the only place we could get at the time a 0 to 200 time was at Bruntingthorpe.
Yeah.
But the surface at Bruntingthorpe, then as now, was rubbish. And you'd never get... I think we tried it. And I was driving it, and Jonathan Palmer was driving it, and we were getting sort of late threes, early fours maybe. The car was way off. The first gear was basically redundant. Mm-hmm. And so what we did do, and I think this is legitimate and fine, is we did... I can't remember where we split it, but I think we did 0 to whatever we could do at Millbrook, 140, and then just took the 140 to 200 times from Bruntingthorpe and spliced them on the top, which is, I think, entirely legitimate because all runs were done in two directions on a level surface. So, that's fine. I defend that. But, yeah.
Who was present on that day?
There were a few people from the magazine, but from McLaren, there was Gordon Murray, there was Jonathan Palmer. Ron definitely wasn't there. There were obviously some technicians around. We had 2 F1s. We actually used 3 F1s for the road test. So there was XP4, which was a blue prototype, which we used for the numbers. There was XP5, which was the last prototype, which is the car that McLaren still has, and which I very, very, very luckily managed to drive quite recently, which we used for all the road assessments and all the photography. And then for some reason, they wanted another car for the cover shoot. And so days later, I went down to the Long Cross test track in Chobham, and they produced a customer car, which I think was chassis 003, and I just did the cover there on that. So what was your question?
Who was present on the day?
Who was present? So
the fascinating thing is, this is the day after Ayrton Senna was killed. McLaren's most famous driver, won 3 world championships with the team.
Yes.
The most famous racing driver probably there has ever been. The day after he was killed, you were doing this.
The man who designed his championship-winning cars, Jonathan Palmer, and Jonathan will tell you that Ayrton was his absolute hero. There's professionalism and there's professionalism. Obviously he died on a Sunday. I turned up to Bruntingthorpe the following morning, probably more than half expecting them not to be there. But I hadn't had a call, and I didn't want to call because I didn't want to jinx it. And they were, just completely professional. We sort of mumbled out, how sorry we were and that sort of thing. And we were all absolutely devastated. And it's a weird thing. Well, it is for me at least, because, there are drivers that I admire today. The drivers I really like. I admire Lewis hugely, who wouldn't. I like guys like Max and Leclerc because they've got sort of fighting spirit. But I didn't, and it might be an age thing, it may be because back then they lived in a more difficult, dangerous time, but I didn't sort of, they weren't, these guys today, they're not my heroes. I don't idolise them. But Senna, all of us in the Autocar office, we were absolutely not for six by it. Hardly any of us had ever met him. And yet we all felt his passing in a way that, certainly in my career in motoring journalism, there's not been anything like it. And there were the McLaren guys who knew this bloke like a brother. And there they were the next day with the car, doing what they said they would do, getting through it. And it was profoundly impressive.
It really is a measure of all those blokes, isn't it? Incredible, really.
Yeah.